I don't miss anything. Sorry about that. We have a fun agenda in the beginning, and then some interesting items on the rest of the agenda. And we're very honored to have our terrific Stony Brook University football team with us today. And we have a special presentation to make to them, and we're going to do that because they got classes to get to. But first, remind everybody we're webcasted. Essentially live. I think there's a couple of second delay here in case Jim Morgan says something stupid that we have to get cut out and sliced.
I'm just sitting here.
But like we always do, let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody rise. I'll ask Councilmember Trotta to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence for all our men and women overseas, especially those who have lost their life in the last time since we met. Good. Thank you. Okay.
Coach.
I'll ask the trustees, starting with, is you our student rep?
Yes.
Yes, with our student rep. You guys alternate sometimes, right?
Every other year.
Every other year. Very good. State your name for the record, and then we'll go down with Frank.
Captain Sausolia.
Frank Trotta.
Lou Howard.
Jean Garand.
John Corrado.
Kevin Law.
Ed Benedict. Jim Morgo. Me. Fred Walter.
Scott Middleton.
Scott. All right. I'll note a quorum for the record. Ask for a motion to approve the minutes of December 6, 2011.
Motion made.
So by Frank, seconded by Jim Morgo. Any comments, questions, or revisions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, before I get to some items on my chair's report, we have a very special presentation to make. And we have with us it seems like every meeting we're honoring another terrific Stony Brook sports team. We've the last year and a half has been so incredible. Whether it was the basketball team, whether it was our track and field folks who were here last time, baseball team. Every sport is doing great. Lacrosse, of course. Sorry, but you South Shore guys. And so, but this year was one of the most exciting football years. And I know I took my little guy, my 10-year-old, to watch you guys, and he had more fun watching you than he did the Jets, that's for sure. And so we have with us today, we have Coach Chuck Prior up here. We have a lot of members of the team, but here are some facts that are worth noting. The team won its third consecutive Big South Conference Championship. It earned its first trip to the NCAA FCS playoffs that I had the pleasure of watching with Scott over at the park bench because you guys were in Houston, right? Yeah, so we didn't make that trip, but we made all the home games. You beat Stony rival Albany in the first round of the playoffs. You battled #1 ranked Sam Houston State in the second round before finally coming up short, 34-27 in the final minute. And you finished the season ranked as one of the top 20 teams in the country. So that in itself is worth an applause.
All right.
There were numerous student athletes who earned recognition for their outstanding play throughout the year. Junior Miguel Masonette, who was named the Big South Offensive Player of the Year, and as a third-team Sports Network Fathead.com All-American. If I didn't have two little boys and had fat heads all over their walls and stuff, I'm not sure, and if I didn't know that, I'm not sure I would have taken that as a compliment. But knowing what it is a great compliment, and congratulations. And while seniors Brock Jakalski, I'm sorry, and Joe Fiella were both named first team All Big South Conference, as well as Associated Press All-Americans. There you are. And then we have a junior quarterback, Kyle Essington. He earned a place in the Big South Conference All-Academic team as well. And Coach Priora was recognized as the Big South Conference Coach of the Year, the second time he has earned that So real exciting stuff. You guys made us proud, and we talk about it here. Here at the council, we're believers that a great sports program only enhances the reputation of the great academic reputation we already have. So kudos to all of you, and we greatly appreciate it. Coach, we have a plaque and a presentation to make to you. We're going to take a little photo.
Yeah.
So.
And if I could just say,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no, that's okay. No, just that they've been fantastic. I mean, so I've been president 3 years. They've been conference champions 3 years. I don't know. And you know, the other thing is what you said, Kevin, is absolutely right. I mean, the community excitement and the national excitement about this team, I mean, was unbelievable. And I think we had an amazing experience where actually a couple of the bars in New York City became areas where Stony Brook alums came to watch the games, and one of them, the place became absolutely packed with Stony Brook alums, and they said it was an incredible experience to see people watching this game. And actually one of our nice alums actually picked up the tab for the entire bar. That's a true story, was at the game. But you know, that level of excitement I think is amazing. So again, I want to thank you guys for having a great season, and you know, I enjoyed every game that I was able to get to. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, did Sam Houston win? No, I can't remember. Did they go all the way?
Lost in the finals.
Lost in the finals. Okay, so then we were in third place.
That's right.
As far as I'm concerned in the things. But I wanted to congratulate
Right,
you.
no,
So,
thank you, Sam, and good points. And I think it has something to do with you being here 3 years.
Yeah. It does.
Let's get the basketball to the NCAA.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I'll give you that credit.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Coach, I'd like to say a few words.
Sure, I would love to. First of all, thank you very much for honoring the football program. You know, football's a team sport, and certainly we believe that down in our end of campus, that we all join together, whether it be academics, social, alumni, local events. We're really pleased to represent it. I think our guys represent correctly, as well as we're represented correctly, you know, not only by you representing us today with this award, but the opportunity to be part of this college campus. I mean, it's been an awesome experience for myself over my 6 years, and you're correct, 3 for 3, so I guess you and I have got to stay for one more year. And then, you know, moving forward to some great excitement as you saw the schedule releasing. We have Army and Syracuse, which is certainly a great thing for the Stony Brook community and our alumni base. 2 New York schools that are both competing in the 1A level, and our opportunity to compete against them. So we're just really blessed and pleased with the opportunity to serve you. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. We have this plaque to present to you. Then we have a nice photo to present to all your student athletes. And why don't you get in the middle here? Sure. Got a picture of you, me, and Sam.
Short guy in the middle.
Turn this way, guys.
Thanks. Great. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
And then, why don't you stay up here? We've got the members of the team up here.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool. Who's that guy in the middle?
You know, looks pretty good.
Hey guys, what's your name? Hey Mike, how are you?
Miguel.
Miguel, Kyle. My son enjoyed watching QB.
Brock.
Hey Brock, how are you?
Good.
Hey Matt, how are you? My other son's Matt. Wait, Kyle, why don't you get in here? Have a quarterback hold this. Look at that, is that pretty cool, guys?
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah? Let's do bookends, I'll get in the other end. You guys come on in.
Hero, you stand behind me.
Great shot, great.
Everybody look here.
Thanks.
All right. Congratulations.
I think I have to share one more thing. That's a hell of a football player, and he may have a chance at future in it. But if not, I'm going to sell his hands to the NFL.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ryan, you're my
Carol Monzaro, my assistant.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was lovely.
That's okay. No, just take this. Okay, I got it. I got it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's it. Jay, thanks, man. Thank you. All right. Good job. Bye-bye. Good day. Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Right. What do you think about it? That was nice, man. Those are the biggest hands I've ever seen.
Mine are not small.
He's
by
a
the way.
receiver.
Really kind of normal size hands. I can palm a basketball.
I hope he's coming back.
He's a receiver?
No, he's an offensive lineman.
Is he coming back? Is he,
Oh, yeah. It's
sophomore?
got another. It's got another year at least. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's sophomore or junior. His two brothers were both outstanding athletes at Stony Brook. So one was a football player and one was a basketball player. And so he's the youngest of the family, but they're amazing athletes.
Were they all that size too?
No, he's the biggest.
Yeah.
The other two brothers are not small.
Trying to
but he's
think
the
of the
biggest.
mom here.
He's the biggest. The mom and dad are actually not. Genetics is interesting.
That was great. Well, appropriate to have Stony Brook red going on Valentine's Day today. I can't tell. Do we always have the red tablecloth out, or is it?
White.
It's usually white. See, I did notice.
I'm Susan.
Very good.
We got
Yeah.
little kisses on the table.
Very good. Yes. Very
Happy
good.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Good thing we have this meeting at night, and I apologize for having the meeting changed to today. I'm glad everybody was able to make it. We had a reschedule from yesterday to today. And Diana called up this morning and said she got stuck out east, so she sends her regards. She's not with us today. So who else are we missing? Did we miss anybody else other than Diana? No?
Bob Flint?
Oh, Robert, yes, not here.
His wife.
I just have a couple of items to report, sort of just continuing some things I shared with you at the last meeting, and they relate to other things that I'm involved with, not as chair of Stony Brook, but that directly have benefits or impacts to Stony Brook. And first, last time I filled you in on the governor's Economic Development Council, the Regional Economic Development Council for Long Island. Told you that we were in the running. We had submitted a plan which included a whole bunch of projects, including some projects that involve Stony Brook. You've probably read about it, but if you haven't, 2 days after our last meeting, the governor announced the 4 winning regions of the state, and Long Island was one of the 4. So Nassau, Suffolk County, the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council won over $100 million, and a lot of the projects that were included in that bundle of the award, based on the plan that we submitted, included some projects for Stony Brook, including a smart grid initiative with Brookhaven National Lab, a joint co-venture project with Hofstra University to increase the amount of engineers that our region generates, as well as a STEM initiative which Stony Brook University is also a part of, which is our emphasis on training our kids in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. So all good news, and the check is in the mail. I don't think we've gotten any of the funds yet. So now the paperwork starts, but it was great to get an award, and it was great for Long Island to win, and I'm glad that Stony Brook was a significant part of our plan. So happy to report that to you. Also, Tomorrow, with my LIA hat on, we have our annual meeting where we appoint all our board of directors, our chair, a new chairman. We're rolling out a new website, a new logo, really changing the new LIA. And we've created a bunch of committees, and Sam will be chairing the new health, education, and not-for-profit committee. So he'll be doing that with the president of Bank of America out here. So it should be a good committee, and we're looking forward to having Sam on that. And then finally, you may have also read about, again, has impacts to Stony Brook because they're a significant component of it, is we've created this initiative called Accelerate Long Island, and the whole concept of Accelerate is to get our research institutions collaborating with each other and then helping to convert the research that's going on in those institutions into commerce, to create jobs, to create future employers for our region. And it includes Stony Brook, B&L, Cold Spring Harbor, North Shore LIJ, the Feinstein Institute, as well as Hofstra University, and CA Technologies. And they're our founding members. We've incorporated, we've created a board. Sam and I are on that board, as well as the presidents of the other institutions I just mentioned. And we have financial commitments. We've created officers. We're in the process of searching for an executive director for the initiative, and we're excited about it. It started more than a year ago, and Brookhaven Supervisor Mark Lesko and the Roush Foundation helped plant the seeds for it and started bringing people together, and we've been working on it, a lot of things behind the scenes to actually get it off the ground. We're following a model that has worked well in California. It was called UC Connect, and it was based out of University of California, San Diego, where San Diego tried to transform their economy from a defense-oriented economy to a high-tech, life science, bioscience tech type of region. So you had Silicon Valley in Northern California, San Diego in Southern California, and it worked. It was all about using our universities and our research institutions as economic engines, viewing them as such, connecting them with the private sector. So we're in the process of a search for an executive director. We're really hopeful that with our research institutions, we will be able to help create future employers for our region. So it's all good news, and it relates to another item that we're going to have on our agenda later on today on the economic development activities and projects and programs here just at Stony Brook. And then when you take all those other institutions that I just mentioned together, we really can have a bright future for our region and have future employers that will hire our grads, like here at Stony Brook. Because what we do a great job of now is spending billions of dollars educating our kids K through 12, and then in our public institutions only to see them leave Long Island because there aren't the jobs or they can't afford to stay here. And you look at that from a business perspective, it's a terrible investment. You know, we invest a lot of money in our kids only to ship them off to other places. And so, first and foremost, before we tackle issues like affordable housing, there have to be jobs for them here. Otherwise, they're not staying to begin with. And so, you know, when we think about creating jobs for our region, you need to build upon your assets. And one of our assets here is certainly Stony Brook University. And so I think it's a great opportunity for Stony Brook. It's bringing the business community together with our institutions. So it all relates. Stony Brook, my hat with the LIA, what we're doing with the Accelerate, the Governor's Economic Development Council. It's all about sort of trying to bring this island together and coming up with a plan, which we did, implementing that plan to create some jobs in an area that we're well positioned to capitalize on. A lot of regions of the country want to be that high-tech area, that life science area, that biotech area. They don't have the assets to do that. It's wishful thinking. We do have the assets. You just take Cold Spring Harbor, Stony Brook, and B&L alone. There's over a dozen Nobel laureates that have emanated from those institutions, you know. And then you add in the largest employer on Long Island, which is now North Shore LIJ, and the other institutions like Hofstra and SUNY Farmingdale. We really do have a lot of assets to capitalize on. So this is half full, more than half full. You know, I believe that I'm optimistic for our region. We got a lot of naysayers out there, but we do have a plan, which is important because, as Mark Twain often said, that if you aim for nothing, you'll hit it. And so it's important that we do have a plan, some goals, some priorities and strategies, and it's great that Stony Brook is right in the midst of all of it. So Sam, thanks for your commitment on all of those issues and activities, and look forward to working with you on those. And with that,
Kevin, before you
sure.
go to the next one, I'd like to just speak on behalf of the council, and I didn't speak to anyone before this, but you know, I've been sitting here for 11 years now, and you two together have really accomplished two tremendous things in the last year with the tuition movement, which really saved the system, and then these millions of dollars that we're getting from the state for economic development. And I know it's a committee, and there's a lot of people involved, and Jim was on that, but you two have really made a tremendous team. And as individuals, we receive those benefits because of the belief the governor and the public has in what you guys do. And can't say thank you enough for really having that positive impact on this university, and what's ultimately going to be all of Long Island. So it's tremendous. And you two, as leaders, helped us get it done.
Well, thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Great work.
Sam and I, we become great friends. We're great. We are great partners. We enjoy it. You know, this is his university. He runs it. We're here to help him make this even a better place than it is. We all have our other hats on, but they all do relate. At the end of the day, they do relate, and so it's, you know, it's great to be part of a team.
But,
thanks for being part of that team.
I watched the live casting of your pitch to the governor and the senators on tuition modification, and it was impressive. You know, and you had a plan, and you spoke clearly about it. And that's what leadership's all about. And people understood it, and here we are, moving in the right direction.
Well, thanks. I appreciate John. Love.
Kevin, apropos to John's remarks, I'm glad he said that, because I was trying to figure out if you debate whether that you were going to drink that water or walk on it after the comment.
Throw it on the ground.
No, I can't fill those shoes. Far from that. Far from that. Ask Jim Morgo. So, but thank you.
It's great to be here. I don't have to say anything. You only
I like it.
That's still his punchline. We know each other too well. Well, thank you guys, and with that, we'll hand it over to our president for his report. Sam?
Thank you. So, you know, and again, thank you, John and Lou. Those are really kind words, and very much appreciated. And it has been a lot of fun working with Kevin, and I'll talk about that again in just one second. So, as you said, I think that the biggest news for Stony Brook happened, you know, about a week or so after our last meeting, and that was coming together of two major announcements. One was the gift from Jim and Marilyn Simons of $150 million to Stony Brook University, which ranks among the top 10. I think it's 6 or 7 all time and gets to a public university. So it's one of the greatest investments that any individuals have made in public education ever in history. And it's, I think, came at a wonderful time because, and the two things were related, because it came at a time when we were able to actually announce the signing of our SUNY 2020 plan as well. And that was the plan that allowed us to do more than just receive that increase in tuition that had been passed by the legislature. It actually allowed us to receive an academic excellence fee, which will actually go to helping us hire new faculty, things that will directly benefit students. It allowed us to do more with out-of-state tuition than we could before, so a chance again to hire more faculty and make a positive impact essentially on our school. And it also included $35 million in capital, which we're going to use to build a medical and research translation building. And at some point we'll, I think, have a presentation on that. I think that should be on our agenda, Ken, to talk about that building so you can see what that'll do. And I think it's going to be something that'll make a difference for this region. It's not only a research building, but it's a clinical building as well, and it's going to help us, we hope, deliver state-of-the-art cancer care to this region. So we're very excited about that. It was a wonderful ceremony to have both the governor there as well as Jim and Marilyn Simons. But I did actually have a small presentation to make, which was at that thing. There was actually a signing of the official bill, essentially, or proclamation that was signed by both Governor Cuomo and Chancellor Zimfer for the system. And one of the people who was really key in helping us get this done was Kevin Law. Kevin was, it's absolutely true. I mean, we had many conversations about getting this bill passed, and then once it was passed, actually getting it signed so we could actually start to see the benefits. You would, I naively believed that once a bill was passed, we would be set to go, but in fact, it required approvals from others, which were very important, and we had to submit a plan, it had to be approved. And Kevin really played a very important role, I think, in helping us both develop the plan and present it, as you heard, but also in work behind the scenes, I think, that wasn't so obvious. So I just wanted to present to you, Kevin, a copy of that signed proclamation.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
you for
Yeah.
Oh, wow, this is great. That's a real one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
I
nice.
I appreciate it, Sam. Thank you very much. It was fun to be a part of that. Now, again, as you said, it was a team effort too.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
fun
absolutely.
it was fun going up to Albany, working with all of your staff, as well as with Mr. Simons.
Yep.
And,
Well, sure, yeah, yeah.
Sure.
One more.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. So we're very excited. There's obviously lots of work to be done, and we have to work very hard, I think, to justify the confidence that both the Simons and the state have put in us in our future. But I think it's a wonderful time, and I think there's been a great excitement on campus since that happened. I'm going to defer, I think, in the interest of time, all the rest of my report to what's been submitted to you. I'll just point out one thing that continues to be very exciting, and that is Stony Brook faculty, and we've talked about this before, do an amazing job of working with high school students in both the Siemens and Intel competitions. And this is something where, they're not paid to do it. They do it on their own time, but they bring these high school students in from across Long Island, bring them into their laboratories, and help them do projects that can allow them to compete in both Intel and Siemens. And no university in the United States has been more successful in Stony Brook in mentoring students for this competition, period. Nobody else has come even close. We had a number of semifinalists, most of them from Long Island, some from other states, who were mentored by Stony Brook students. That included Samantha Garvey, who you may have heard about, the student who was homeless and who did a project with one of our faculty members involving mollusks, and it was in the bay, and it was a very successful project. And then when they announced the finalists, actually 8 of the 40 finalists, so 1/5 of the finalists announced, were mentored by Stony Brook faculty. So it's an amazing accomplishment. And again, I just want to say how much I appreciate how much the faculty do. It's an interesting twist of these things that when Intel or Siemens does the announcement, they announce the student, they announce the high school they were from, and they may announce the high school teacher that they worked with, the high school science teacher, but they never announce the professor at the university. And I have to tell you that these projects are incredibly sophisticated. They're not the kinds of projects usually you could do in a high school lab. We certainly couldn't do it in your garage. You really have to go to a university like Stony Brook for 95% of them to get it done. And I've always pushed, I keep pushing on Intel and Siemens to understand why they don't mention that mentor, because they're absolutely critical. So this is my way of, again, publicly thanking our faculty for the outstanding work they do in doing this. And I think it brings, even though it may not bring all the publicity I would like for Stony Brook to doing it, they do it for absolutely the right reasons, and it's helping prepare the scientists and of the future. So we're very excited about it. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention. So, and I think with that, I think I'll stop so we can get to our program. Thank you.
Great, and if anybody has any questions for Sam on his report, which contains a lot of really great information too, feel free to give him a call. And that was exciting when Mr. Simons made his gift and the governor was out here. And, it's just great, again, for the governor of the state of New York to be on campus. There's an excitement. And then to have Jim Simons make a gift of that magnitude, which is really going to really take this university to a new level. It was a great year. I mean, in terms of the SUNY 2020 and winning the capital program award to help with the new facility over the health science, and then Jim's gift. I mean, Geez, and then we had the sports programs. You
I
know,
know.
I mean,
Yeah,
really,
that's
I
all
mean,
the time.
killing us,
it was
right?
probably one of the best years that Stony Brook's had.
Thank you,
Right?
very good
Yeah,
job.
very
I don't know
good.
what we do for an encore, frankly, but we'll keep working on it, so.
Well,
yeah,
very
thank
good.
you.
That basketball team's gonna make it to the NCAA's.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we'll do that. All right, Sam, thank you very much. Any questions for Sam? Hearing none, we'll go to the next part of the agenda. We're gonna have an external relations update from Elaine Crossan, our VP for External Relations. Who's gonna discuss both 2012 legislative priorities as well as Stony Brook's rebranding initiative that Sam emailed us all on a couple of weeks ago. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Morning,
Good
and thanks
morning.
for having me. I've been asked to report on 2 areas in my portfolio, legislative priorities for 2012, and then our rebranding and marketing initiative. So I'll start with the legislative priorities. On the state level, we have 4 areas that we're focusing on this legislative session, and most of them focus around the budget. The executive budget came out in January, and again, it cut the state support from where we would want it to be for the hospital. So in 2010-11 budget year, the hospital, the 3 SUNY hospitals received $115 million in direct state support. And that money is really used to offset the increased costs the SUNY hospitals have for the fringe benefit packages we offer because we have state employees. So the state, years ago, based upon a recommendation of a private report, the report suggested that the state assist the SUNY hospitals in covering those fringe benefit costs by giving direct state dollars to the hospitals. Was set at $115 million in 2010-11. In last year's executive budget, that $115 million was zeroed out, and we had to work very hard with the legislature to restore $60 million of that 115, and that's what we settled on last year, was a restoration of $60 million of the 115 million. When this year's state budget came out, the executive budget proposed that we be held harmless at $60 million. There was no effort on the governor's part to restore it back to the 115 million of the 2 prior years. So we will be working this legislative session with the legislature to see if we can get the $60 million in direct state support restored up to the $115 million.
Elaine, you want to mention how much it really costs in excess benefits? It's not 115 million, it's 175 million. So even 115 is $60 million less than it really costs, and now we're further down to 60 million.
So we've been working in the first instance to persuade the governor's staff to increase the direct state support from 60 million to 115 million. If that fails, and we suspect it will, then we will be knocking on the doors of our legislators to see if they can cobble together the money we need to be restored to $115 million. Which, as Ken said, doesn't even cover the cost, but at least it brings us back to where we were in 10-11. The next big issue we're dealing with is access to capital for our construction projects on campus. In the year 2000, the state passed new legislation that put limits on the amount of money the state could borrow. That affects SUNY's ability to borrow even though we pay our own debt service. So it really doesn't make sense that our debt service is in that calculation, but we are. So due to those debt ceilings, we do not have access to some of the borrowing capacity that we need in order to move forward on 4 projects on both sides of campus. It means we'll have to delay construction on the bed tower, our efforts to expand the operating rooms over at the hospital, the construction of a medical office building on the East Campus, and the construction of our residence halls and dining halls that we had in the works. So again, we're going to be working very hard in the legislative halls to see if we can get removed from sort of the debt ceiling calculation and have access to that capital. There are jobs that will not be created as a result of not having access to that capital. Those jobs, the creation of those jobs will at best be delayed. And when construction is delayed, the costs go up. Obviously, this is a very favorable time to be going out to bid, and we may miss out on that window of opportunity. So we're really going to be working hard to see if we can be excused from the debt reform legislation limits that were imposed. So far, that argument has been picking up some steam in Albany. People are hearing us, and we are somewhat hopeful that we will get some relief on that issue. Going back to the SUNY 2020 legislation, as Sam alluded to, the legislation was signed in June and became effective. That legislation authorized us to raise the tuition by $300. But our authority to impose the academic excellence fee or to charge more for the out-of-state tuition was dependent upon the approval of our 2020 plan that did not occur until December, on that great day that we all were just talking about when we announced the Simon's gift and the governor signed our plan. But as a result of that delay from June to December, we really lost 6 months of anticipated revenue from those fees and the out-of-state tuition. So we're going to be seeking a chapter amendment again, our first stop is going to be in the governor's office, and then we'll work with the legislature if we cannot get it accomplished in the period to amend the budget. And we are seeking a 6-month extension on the back end of what was a 5-year plan, so that we can recapture that 6 months of lost revenue. So we're asking to extend out the 5-year plan another 6 months on the back end. Again, that's picking up some traction. People understand that, and everyone agrees it was a 5-year plan. That was the deal. Just because it was delayed 6 months doesn't mean we should miss out on that 6 months of revenue. The other item that we're working on is a troubling item that affects the vet's home. And this is now the second year in a row the governor's budget has proposed a sweep of almost $1 million from the vet's home and into the general fund. And this is particularly troubling since it's not state money. It is, revenue from the vet's private insurance or the veterans benefits or Medicaid and Medicare. It is not state money that they're trying to sweep into the general fund. And this happens in tough budgetary times. The division of the budget looks for revenues. And so in last year's budget, despite our efforts, language that the governor first proposed survived the budget process, and so the division of the budget actually has the authority up until March of this year to sweep $900,000 under last year's budget. And when the executive budget came out again this year, it had the same language in it, which means that they have the authority to take another $900,000 from the vet's home if they were to exercise that authority twice. So we've been working with Fred Skanga's staff and our supporters in the legislature to get that language removed. So those are our 4 priorities on the state level. On the federal level, we're continuing to work within our associations to protect research dollars, which again in tough budgetary times are always a target. We will be down in Washington fighting to protect Pell, since so many of our students are Pell eligible and dependent upon Pell in order to attend Stony Brook. So President Stanley was one of the few presidents in the AAU, maybe the only president in the AAU organization, to make those Hill visits last year, and we plan to do that again this year. On the county level, we've been meeting with the new county executive on some student safety initiatives. In particular, we're working to ultimately lower the speed limit down Allen Nichols Road if we can. We've had a police presence out there for the past 3 weeks, trying to slow down some of the lead-footed drivers that are speeding past our entrance. And this comes as a result of losing at least 2 students were killed in traffic accidents on the roads that surround the university. And it's part of an overall safety initiative that the president has asked his senior managers to engage in. So we're looking at a comprehensive student safety initiative, and speaking with the county executive is just part of that initiative. And we're also trying to work with the county executive's office, and we got some favorable feedback to see if our students can't use county bus on the weekends rather than running our own buses around to the malls, etc. If we can have a program where students can just flash their Stony Brook ID and get on the bus without any expense to them, the university would pay for that service for the students. From the savings we would incur as a result of not running our own buses on the weekends. So it's, you know, a thing we can work on together, and everybody wins, I think, particularly our students. So that summarizes the government relations initiatives for 2012 so far. It's early, but that's what we're working on so far.
Just make a really quick comment, and that is that, you know, something that I forgot, I don't know if you mentioned it, Elaine, but one of the key components of SUNY 2020 was a maintenance of effort clause that basically said that the governor and the legislature would make every attempt not to cut SUNY's budget going forward, which was a huge thing because, as you know, the previous 3 years we had very significant budget cuts, and so this year SUNY was spared from any budget cuts in the budget going forward as a result of the maintenance of effort. So this was something that was put in the language that was put into the legislation, which was very, very important, and it was adhered to this year. So we did not see a budget cut. SUNY is a state agency, so that was fantastic, and so that's another very positive thing. So overall, the budgetary news for us, in some sense, was much, much better than it's been in the past 3 years. But we still have these issues that Elaine talked about around the hospital, which is, you know, such a vital component, obviously, for this region. I mean, this is the safety net, essentially, for the Long Island region. The safety net hospital, the level 1 trauma center. We do so many things, I think, for the region that this is, I think, it is an important Long Island issue to try and get some of these monies restored. So, anyway, that's...
Sam, can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
What happens from a practical standpoint if there's $900,000 is swept from the vet's home?
That's how I think it's, you know, I think we should have Fred here to talk more about, you know, what their plans are with that money and what they were going to do with it. I think there's, ultimately, I think, you know, it probably, some of it is a reserve fund. You know, everybody's anticipating cuts in Medicaid and Medicare coming forward, which could have an impact on them and the resources they get. I don't know exactly where all the plans are from that money, but as you say, there's a fundamental fairness issue as well in terms of, you know, the fact that it was not state money essentially that came in, and every other veterans home actually in the state had their money spared except ours, and the reason is that our veterans home comes under higher education. The other ones are dealt with by a different legislative committee. Ours comes under higher education, so we did not get spirited, and, you know, through the efforts of the higher education committee. So it's a good question. I wish Fred was here because he could tell you better.
I could
Yeah. Oh, Ken, go ahead.
add a sentence or two. So our state vet's home is, of course, on the Stony Brook campus, and it is without a doubt, since I serve as the governing board for it, the highest quality vets home I have ever seen, and the highest quality vets home amongst the 5 that are in New York State. And one of the reasons they are so high quality is they take the dollars that they get and reinvest it in state-of-the-art facilities, state-of-the-art faculty, state-of-the-art staff. And that's what this money is designed for. The only reason it's there, and as Sam said correctly, it is a little bit of a rainy day fund, is because they're running an occupancy rate of 99.3%. So, I mean, hours go by and the bed gets filled. So it's really a high quality place. Fred is worried that if that occupancy rate falls, that reserve is going to be needed. And so it's an important business decision, it's an important reinvestment decision, it's an important fairness issue. So all those arguments are valid.
Yeah. Good question.
Having the money available to be swept is a testament to the efficient fiscal operation over there.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic. I spoke at a ceremony over there honoring Paul Harrenberg in November, and Fred took me around, and it's just an incredible operation, and he runs it so effectively, and this is the result.
No, I know.
Yeah, no good deed goes
Yeah,
unpunished.
it's so
Yeah.
true. It's so true. Yeah. I have a question, Elaine. Thank you for your presentation, incidentally. And in regards to the shortfall on the medical end with the 145 million and we get 60, and then Dr. Koshansky says 160, where do we get the extra money to offset the shortfall? What pot does that come out of?
Well, last year when the hospital was funded at 60 million, and that's for the 3 state hospitals, we used one-time money really to close that gap for us, which I think was what, 24 million it translates.
We actually took a $47 million hit, current year $47 million hit, 29 million because of the state cut. Medicaid rates were reduced also current year, and that was another $7 million hit. And because the pension fund is not doing as well this year as it has in the past, we had another $15 or $12 million payment due to the pension fund. So altogether was a $47 million hit. The bottom line of the hospital is used for reinvestment. Again, building the bed tower that we desperately need to do because it's the Home for Children's Hospital and it'll modernize our facility. We have a 30-year-old tired state hospital over there, and we need to reinvest to keep it a vital institution. What we were able to do is squeak by with a bottom line this year. Despite the $47 million cut, we're able to remain in the black this year because of one-time cuts to our reserve. Instead of something like 38 days cash on hand, we're now down to 20-some days cash on hand. Obviously, that's a one-time expense, as Elaine says, and we can't continue that. We're trying to continually squeeze more efficiency out of the operations of the hospital. We ended up cutting our faculty practice support dollars. So these are all, kind of draconian cuts that we're having to make, and they really do endanger the vitality of the institution.
I guess you're running a different program. You're squeezing from your services again. I agree. And in regards to the debt, that you pay off your own debt, that too is an outstanding thing. So how do you do that? How do you raise the money to pay your debt?
So at SUNY, if it's hospital construction, the debt gets paid off with patient revenue income, and on the student side through tuition and fees. So we pay down our own debt with our own fees. Unlike other state agencies that don't generate any fees, this actual state dollars go to pay down those debts. And the rationale that we'll hear is that if we default, the state's full faith and credit is used to back those debts.
So they're guaranteeing.
So so that's why they say it needs to count towards the debt ceiling. That's the counter
That's why they're
argument.
including you in there, because they're guaranteeing if you do pay, they need to pay it off.
That's
I see what you're doing.
I just want to add, again, one more sentence about the debt capacity for the East Campus projects, like the bed tower, like the medical office building, parking structures, and things like that. We actually do have enough to pay for the bed tower, and it's very important that I made that minor tweak, because if the Department of Budget believes we do not have the ability to support the new bed tower, they're gonna yank it out from under us. So we actually do have it for that. But medical office building, let me give you an example. So we pay rent out on Belmead Road that we might as well be using to pay off a debt capacity, and then in 20 years or whatever, own the building. And so there are a lot of sound business decisions that would support new construction on our campus, support Suffolk County economy, that just doesn't make sense not to do, and not having the capacity to borrow this money, which we're gonna pledge we'll pay back.
All right, so it's taking a better business look at your profile and reinventing it,
As
really.
much as it pains me to say it, it's all about business.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry to say too. And then the loss, the 6-month loss, how much money was that if we lose it? What is the holdback?
About $2.5 million.
So there you go, that's quite a bit of money too. Thank you. I just needed to see where it was all coming from and where you're going with it.
And Mark corrected me that on the residence halls, the debt service is paid by the room rent, not
Oh,
by
the room rent.
not by
Right.
tuition
Yeah.
fees.
Okay.
I misspoke.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go to the rebranding
Sure.
initiative one.
Yeah, so the next topic is our rebranding and marketing initiative, and it's important that we bundle the two together because we started with the first half of this project, and that is our new mark. And to assist me in that discussion, I'm going to introduce Carlton Wood from Lewis Communication. But it's important to know that that's just the first half of this project. The second half of the project has to do with a marketing campaign that we are preparing for, and some of the research for the marketing campaign on the East Campus for our hospital. The research is currently underway for that, and soon we will be launching the research that will lead to a new marketing campaign for the university. So it's a twofold initiative. We started with the new mark, and we can explain in detail how we got there and why it's important to be focusing on refreshing our brand and continuing to be out in the marketplace. And I wanted to just spend a little time introducing the subject to you. As I said, for this project, we selected Lewis Communication. They've been working with the university since 2007, at first on the hospital side of the campus, and twice they have participated in a competitive bidding process and were selected over their competitors, some of whom were New York marketing companies. And we selected them because of their expertise both in higher education, research, and hospitals. They had a unique combination that we thought lent itself to assisting Stony Brook with all of our complexities. As to why we are refreshing our brand and moving out into a marketing campaign, the answer is simple, really. We're in a very competitive field. We are competing with other universities for top students, for top faculty, for federal research dollars, and so it's important to remain competitive. And just to show you that marketing for universities doesn't stop during a recession, this is from the Sunday Times. Ohio State is marketing, UCLA is marketing, and that's just one issue of the Sunday Times. So we do need to be out there reminding everyone what a great place Stony Brook is, and particularly now as we enter into this transformational period for the university with our new gift and with our enhanced tuition revenue, our commitment of no further cuts in state support. It's time to be out front telling our story in the marketplace. So let me introduce Carlton Wood from Lewis Communication. He's going to walk us through some of the details on our rebranding efforts.
So let me start by saying that, it goes without saying, this is a really exciting time to be involved with the Stony Brook University brand. Your sports teams, as we heard in detail earlier, are doing great things. And when the men's lacrosse team makes the Final Four of the Grade 8 a couple of years ago, that's a really integral part of the Stony Brook University brand. That makes the sports page all over the country. So that's an example of how sports and branding really coincide. And so your athletics teams are doing a great job of that. And some of what we're trying to do is make sure that we're working in as many areas as possible to build the Stony Brook brand to really adequately represent this great institution that is constantly improving and innovating and getting bigger and stronger and better. So one of the things that we really were trying to work against was the fact that over the last 15 years, since the last major rebranding initiative, the organization has changed, and new entities and what we call the Marketing Geeks sub-brands pop up, and the brand kind of becomes fractured and it pulls apart. And specifically on the hospital side, things weren't really clear to people. Do I work for University Hospital or do I work for Stony Brook University Medical Center? Neither. I work for the Health Sciences Center. So we had kind of these conflicts of where everything fit. So one of the main things we want to do was really pull East Campus together, the medical enterprise, and then pull both that and the university closer together, so that we had a stronger brand. A visual example of what a fractured brand looks like. All these different marks, and then when we had Stony Brook University Physicians and the new Stony Brook Children's Hospital, even when we're really working to tie things together, as you can see here, visually, it becomes tough for everything to look like it's coming from the same place. And here's an example on a doorway off campus at a healthcare facility where you've got all these different looks. And so for professional marketers and advertisers, we look at this and say, this is inefficient. We may be sharing messages from different places and they're not fitting together. So our goal was to create literally a new brand architecture. And it's much more important than just the new mark, the shield or the typeface we use. It's really making sure that everything has its place and that they all fit together. So one of the first things that we needed to do was pull the medical enterprise together, and we created a new brand, Stony Brook Medicine, and we've been working for several months on this, and that way the health sciences schools, all 5 of them, not just medicine, but all 5 of the health sciences schools pull together, the hospital pulls together, and your off-campus facilities pull together. And then, more importantly, we could link the medical enterprise and the university much more closely together. In the past, the medical center or the hospital really was seen more to represent patient care, and we knew with our experience in academic medical centers that we really needed to separate ourselves from the community hospitals by focusing on research and academics. That's what makes Stony Brook Medicine great. It's not just patient care, it's those other things. And of course that ties into the research and the academics on West Campus.
Which way is this going?
So now, by pulling these brands together, whether there's advertising or marketing for undergraduate student recruitment, or there are marketing efforts to recruit faculty, or we're promoting a healthcare service line, as all these things look the same and have the same what we call brand voice, they all work together to make a bigger bang for your buck when you start spending those marketing dollars. And, we needed to simplify our marks. When the last logo set was created in 1996, the internet was in its infancy. People didn't focus on digital communications. Well, we all know now, in 2012, how you communicate yourself online, that may be 80% of the game. That's how people experience your brand. So we needed to update and modernize what we were doing. And we wanted to create a system that was approachable, whether we were talking about academics, we were talking about research, patient care, you name it. Because this institution, the entire Stony Brook University, has a lot of different audiences that you're communicating with. So here's where the rubber meets the road. This is the most visible manifestation of your brand. And so we refined some of the marks that had come before, and we simplified. We really pulled the stars and the rays down to one larger star and a shield shape to make it more traditional and give it some heft in academic circles. We looked very closely, as Elaine had mentioned, at other AAU institutions, and we wanted Stony Brook to look like the robust academic institution it is. And so that's why we came up with the shield. But again, we've still got the star and the rays from the old mark. So it really is an evolution. It's not a complete change. And the type, we kept the same family of fonts, but we went, instead of all uppercase, which is really pretty aggressive, we made it a little bit more traditional with an upper and lowercase. And then you see how well Stony Brook University and the new brand Stony Brook Medicine work together. Now, on the university side, and I know this may be a little bit tough for some of you in the back to see, on the university side we've created marks for what we call the sub-brands, the Alumni Association, the College of Business, the School of Journalism. So again, you see the similarity. There's not a lot of deviation in the graphic treatment for the schools and colleges than there is from the main university logo. On the medical side of things, Stony Brook University Hospital, Stony Brook School of Nursing. All of these things are now fitting together and much more tightly. Here's an example of how it's treated on the university website, where we have updated that with the new mark and included reference here to the State University of New York. So we're making sure that we're keeping that branding going. And then this is really exciting. You know, one of the things that really helped drive this whole process was, you know, we needed a new website. The old website for the medical center was outdated. It had grown and grown and grown, but the navigation had not been updated. It was difficult to find things. You know, but you can't develop a new website for this huge organization until you reorient it. So really creating Stony Brook Medicine as this umbrella brand for East Campus greatly aided in launching this brand new website, which went live just yesterday. And so now I'll just point out real quickly, you know, right here on the homepage, we've got equal weight to the 5 schools in the health sciences, and up here in the top nav, patient care, education, research. So we're communicating, even with the nav on the website, exactly what this institution stands for, and it's more than just patient care. It's that research and academic part as well. An example, I know this gets stretched out on this big flat panel, but this is President Stanley's business card. Again, you can see how the logo works, and we've got the reference to SUNY down here in the bottom right. This is just some fun in terms of where are we going with this new mark. They've made me take some of these things out because none of it is available yet. We know that that's going to be the question, where can I buy this? But here's an example of how this new mark will translate into something as casual as a hoodie for the students to buy, golf shirts, a ball cap. We kind of like using the shield on its own in some instances, but again, they're on the side, Stony Brook University. We don't ever want that shield getting too far away from our name. And the ever ubiquitous iPhone cover. So those are just some examples of what we're doing with this new mark. Now, let me talk a little bit about what Elaine alluded to in terms of what's next. So we have worked with with East Campus for several years. Our work on the university side is a little bit more recent, and so we have already begun doing some audits of the communications being done by the university. We're monitoring things like social media channels, but we've got more to do. We're going to be doing some in-depth interviews, and we're going to start by talking to leadership here at the university, and we'll be doing some groups with faculty and staff, with existing students, or current students, and with alumni to make sure we're getting all those different perspectives as we develop some brand plans. We'll go out online with some quantitative surveys so that we can validate what we find in these focus groups and project that statistically to a larger number. And once we analyze that, we're going to come back, we make a presentation with our recommendations for brand positioning and our messaging points. We work closely with leadership to make sure we have their input before we ever start on creative development. We want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then we'll go into, later this spring, we'll go into creative development for some initial marketing messages. And that may include everything from how you talk to peer institutions in order to raise your rankings in U.S. News and World Report, to how you talk to prospective students and how you recruit faculty. And then that will kind of take us to the end of this current budget year, and we hope that we'll have some additional opportunities to get aggressive. Because as Elaine said, this is just one copy of the Sunday New York Times, and you have the State University of Ohio and a school from Los Angeles marketing. So these are not just schools marketing locally, these are schools marketing nationally. And I could share 24 more case studies where universities are getting much more aggressive, because again, you're competing for the same students, you're competing for the same faculty, you're competing for the same NIH funding, and now you're also trying to raise your profile with these influential philanthropic donors that we know can be so critical to the life of a university. So I think that's everything. And do we want to take any questions? I don't know if we're running up against time.
Very impressive. Crisp, clean. I like it. And I like the Stony Brook medicine concept too.
Yeah.
And Sam, did you say in your email other universities, our peers are doing that too? Like, what was it, Johns Hopkins?
Yes, going to the
schools under the medicine
correct
label.
Stanford, Yale,
Yeah.
Duke. It's become a trend, but I think one that makes a lot of sense because there really is, in this day to day when you're going to start talking about accountable care organizations and so on, really the idea that you're an integrated deliverer of healthcare, but also, as Carlton said, encompassing our research and academic components, which allows us really to distinguish ourselves from local competitors. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're really excited about this. This is really necessary. I mean, I think people sometimes say, well, why does a university, need to get engaged in marketing? If we just do things well and, we'll be fine. And unfortunately, I just don't think that's true these days. And Carlton and Elaine did a great job of summarizing, I think, why we need to do this. I don't have any more really to add because I think they hit the main points. But I can tell you we haven't done it well enough in the past. And and that's, having come from a place, St. Louis, for example, if you were to walk on the street and ask 100 people in St. Louis, tell me about Stony Brook University, my guess is maybe 1 or 2 of those 100 would know about it. We had a broadcast of our basketball game on national TV. Of the game against Vermont was on CBS Sports Network now, which is available, I guess if you have the right cable, but it's available nationally. And Don Crickey was one of the announcers along with Mike Gaminsky, who used to play for Duke. So anyway, a former basketball player. But Don Crickey said, Stony Brook.
Yeah.
He goes, it sounds kind of like a small school or something, but actually, it's bigger. It's in New York. They've got 25,000 students, and they've got a good medical center or something. But they're really not very well known. He said this. They're really not very well known, but they're working on this and working on getting better. Well, that was pretty disappointing for me to hear that. So,
What do you expect from Notre Dame?
But we have work to do. So, I mean, that tells us that we essentially have work to do, and I think we can do this better. I think the Simon's announcement, I don't know how many of you saw, but, appearing in major newspapers was an announcement we made about this in the Chronicle of Higher Education, which are where we have peers we want to try and impress and let them know. Again, Carlton talked about recruiting faculty, letting people know things are on the move at Stony Brook. We've been making those kind of commitments. But as I say, there's a lot of work to do, but it's really very important. Yeah, Luke.
Yeah. Sam, if you juxtapose what we've had before with just the 3 little circles, and you take that, there's a feeling and spirit of Americanism, like the AAU and all the types of service types of things, but there's a subconscious identity with that as compared to this that promotes absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I think.
Good.
If you look up there and see all of the logos that the university has and the names that, the need becomes real when you see that in that
If
format.
you look across our 35 sites, the only thing that's consistent on any of the doors is the no smoking sign.
Fred?
I have a question. Now that we're rebranded, what's the purpose of these focus groups that you're calling?
Well, we're rebranded in terms of our visual mark and how we're communicating that. But the dig interviews, we're going to get much more to the heart of what makes Stony Brook University great and what makes Stony Brook University different. One of my colleagues has a statement that he drops in meetings all the time. A lot of times, different is better than better. You have to communicate who you are. You also have to communicate who you want to be. And so what we do, I mean, we're going to basically recreate the process that we did with the medical center 4 years ago, and that is really understanding what are the things that we can pull out and define this place with. And the example I'll give, there had been some talk already about creating a children's hospital when we came on board in '07. But once we did our dig interviews, we came back and said, you have all these incredible pediatric specialties and subspecialties. Why aren't you branding yourself as a children's hospital? We think you could do that right now. Well, there had already been some discussion about that, and within a year, the move was made, let's create a new brand. Now, the children's hospital brand is still in its infancy, but that's an example of where we think our outside perspective and really digging into who you are and who you want to be and how we can present you better is going to be very helpful. So it'll go beyond developing just marks, but developing narratives for how you're going to market yourself. And you have to market yourself differently to each and every one of those audiences. A quick example, and I won't go on, some of our work for Auburn, going back 10 or 12 years ago, to really project the image of Auburn as a place of economic development. When the state legislature started cutting their budget, they needed to remind them how many jobs and how much investment comes out of university research. So that's, I believe, just one of the components that we're going to want to pull out of what happens here at Stony Brook as we do that research dig.
And when should the media campaign start? And what type of budget we're talking about? Because you can't just do a little bit. To have an impact, you got to do it often. It needs to be repetitive and national, right? So something tells me this is probably a significant investment.
So the initial phase has been really, I think, to A, do this remark, and B, to promote the Simon's gift, essentially, which is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime almost kind of opportunity for Stony Brook, given the magnitude, given the national publicity. So a lot has been based on the follow-up to that. So we've had a number of ads. We're actually sending communications out to our peers, including those who are involved in evaluations for things like U.S. News and World Report and so on, again with the message about what's happening in Stony Brook in response to that. The larger kind of mainframe campaign will weight some of the results of this of the marketing we're doing, because as Carlton said, I think we now have a brand, a mark that we like, but now the question is what's the message that really goes out there and what's so effective. And I think the challenge is, as Carlton said, is the message that goes out to prospective students is not going to look the same as the message we use for economic development. And it's too bad we don't have time today, Carlton, because the commercials that they did for Auburn, for example, the television commercials are really pretty spectacular. And because I can remember them, which is, I really don't remember very many commercials that I see, but I remember these very well, particularly the one with the automobile crash is amazing. We probably need an automobile crash for ours as well. But at any rate, it's there's a lot of, I think, work we have to do. And but as I say, it's really important. The competition for students is incredible. The competition for faculty is incredible. And we're going to have some resources. So the big news about SUNY 2020 and about the Simon's Gift is we are going to be hiring faculty. So the question is, how do we make sure that the best faculty think Stony Brook is a great place to come to?
Right.
And that's important. How do we make sure the best graduate students think that Stony Brook is a place they want to come? And it's about our website. That's a place where most students come, so that's got to be attractive. But it's also about kind of word of mouth and so on. Athletics is really helpful. Again, you know, national exposure. When we have one of those national games, we get to put spots in them. One of the things we get to do is put a spot in there. In the past, some of our spots have not been, I think, as effective as they should be, so we need to do things better in those areas, but I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Great. Exciting.
Where can we download the high resolution image of the new mark? So for posters, you know, we're sending posters later this month.
We have a branding site. If you go to stonybrook.edu/branding,
Okay.
we have style guidelines up, and we have downloadable marks that you can use. And again, we're going to also say that with the launch of an initial new mark like this, we really want to be careful that we do respect and adhere to the style guidelines. If you have any questions, you can call my office, and the communications office will be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you.
If I can, you know, I wanted to thank Elaine and Yvette, because when I became president of the Alumni Association, one of the things I noticed right away, or I've noticed over the past few years, is the Alumni Association's branding has been terrible. And our marketing has been non-existent. So I created a branding and marketing subcommittee, and Yvette's on it, and it's very helpful. And for the first time in a very long time, I see a coordinated effort now. Because, you know, the Alumni Association it's technically a separate not-for-profit, but at the same time, we need to coordinate better with the university and the administration. And these folks have worked very hard with us, and we brought some folks in from athletics who, those guys did a great job with their marketing campaign. And, you know, now when you see the interlocking SB, everybody knows it's Stony Brook. And as Sam indicated, you're seeing it more and more on national television. So it really is a gateway to the university across the country when people see that sort of thing. So I wanted to make sure that the Alumni Association is on board with that. And Elaine and Yvette, and hopefully we'll get Carlton's involvement now, because we really have this branding and marketing push to get things going. I mean, they've done all the work for us on our mark now, so we don't have to worry about that. It's really just the next phase will be the marketing stage. So it worked out. I didn't even know that the university was working on this when I came up with the idea, so it coordinated very nicely, and thank you. Thank you all.
And Scott raises a really important point, which is that, you know, we're not messing with things that have been very successful. So red stayed the color, and Wolfie is safe. So let's be very clear about that. So those things are not changing. So yeah.
Yeah, just like that, you're also competing not only for staff and students, but for government dollars.
Yes.
And it's a big part of getting our name out, because a lot of great things are happening.
Yeah.
And you need a unified push and position to make that happen. So it's all coming together at the right time.
Well, good. It's exciting. We look forward to an update, and look forward to seeing the marketing campaign begin. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we're happy to have Yakov Shamash with us. He's the Vice President for Economic Development. And to set the stage for this, especially in my chairman's report, Yakov, if you missed, I talked about the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council. I talked about things we're doing at the LIA, and I talked about Accelerate Long Island, how Stony Brook is a participant in all of it. But Yakov tricked me into joining another board. What is it called, the incubator board or something I'm on? So I went to this meeting, and he started discussing all the various programs, centers, departments, incubators that Stony Brook has in terms of promoted economic development on the island. And I was surprised, because there are a lot of things I heard I'd never heard of before, and they sounded really good and exciting, and I figured I wasn't aware of them. I figured a lot of you weren't aware of them, and so I thought it'd be worthwhile for Yakov to come in and share with us some of the things that Stony Brook has been doing and is still doing to promote job creation here in our region. So Yakov, I always get everybody out at 11 on the dot, So, you know.
I usually speak for 50 minutes.
No, that's good because I'm sure.
I gets paid.
Did you say 50 or 15? 50, no. You got 22 and 8 minutes for questions. All right? No, but we're happy to have Yakov. And Anne Marie Scheid, who works with Yakov, and she's been a terrific help to us on all the things that I mentioned in my chairman's report.
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak to you. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello, Yakov.
You've all received the
Draft.
economic development thing. I assume you've all read it, and I'll ask some questions. And
That's basic.
Did we receive it? Where is that? Is that in?
The chairman hasn't looked at it.
They did not receive it.
They did not receive it. Well, you should go to the website and see it.
You'll have to send it to us.
We will send it to you.
What does it talk about? Receive what?
This is the strategic plan for economic development for Stony Brook. It was developed about a year ago. It's a work in progress, continues to
It's
be.
a very large document, I
Yes,
guess.
it is.
So
Very large
I
document.
think we will have to send you a link that you
Yes,
can
to
follow.
say yes.
But Jakob will effectively abstract it for us.
Executive summaries are appreciated.
You know, you're really very demanding. Okay, so if we, economic development in Stony Brook, the, next slide, please. You're gonna have to stand up every time you want to change. The old paradigm was essentially campuses were ivory towers, where faculty essentially sat in their offices in some ivory tower and developed things that they wanted to do and had absolutely no implication on their region or on economic development at all. The new paradigm is that a research university is an engine of economic development, and we're seeing more and more of that in terms of Long Island and how we operate on Long Island. Clearly, every region needs a high-tech research university. If you look at the major high-tech regions, whether it's Route 128, you look at Silicon Valley, you look at North Carolina Triangle, they all have major research universities. And we really are the only research university, major research university on Long Island. So, next slide, please. I'm confused. And Marie, too many sheets of paper here.
Is that a blue Wolfie?
Yeah. Yeah, we're changing the color. Now that we've heard the branding, we're gonna have to go back to red.
This is part of the fractured brand treatment. Yeah. Engineering has their own Wolfie.
Not engineering, it's economic development. We can't blame the Dean of Engineering for this. It's the Vice President for Economic Development.
This actually comes from the media services site at the HSC.
Fractured branding.
That's Dr. Reports a sickness.
This was the vision that's in the plan for where we're where economic development in Stony Brook is going. We want to be a key engine of an entrepreneurial regional ecosystem. This is very consistent. The vision turned out to be very consistent with the Regional Economic Development Council recommendations, but we did it first. Right? Kevin is the chair of the REDC, so I just want to make sure.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, we try to copy as much as we could.
Yeah.
We didn't need to reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely. So if you look at Stony Brook is really the only research university in the region. Stony Brook ranked number 74. This is in 2009 NSF research expenditures. University of Virginia was 73. Rockefeller University was 75. The next institution on Long Island was Long Island University at 389.
Wow.
And Hofstra was 580 or something. So I think it just puts in perspective the role that Stony Brook plays on Long Island. So if we look at some of our programs, and the logos, of course, are going to be very interesting to look at. Okay, so I'll be looking forward to essentially combining all these But we have a whole bunch of them.
Is this the sheet that Carlton used for the?
Nobody can.
So we have a broad suite of economic development tools. The Advanced Energy Center, which Kevin is on the board, the SPUR program, a Strategic Partnership for Industrial Resurgence, was started under Cuomo Sr., and that came about as a result of wanting to help the defense industry on Long Island as they were letting go of a lot of people. Subcontractors were falling by the wayside. And so that was started to try and help those little companies that acted as subcontractors to Grumman or BAE Systems or some of the other defense companies. It's been extremely successful, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the success that we've had there. And it's been going on for 17 years, so it's been extremely successful. The Long Island High Tech Incubator, the Calverton Incubator. We have incubators within CWIT and the Energy Center, a Small Business Development Center, Biotech CAT, Sensor CAT, and then we have some training institutes.
Explain what a CAT is.
Center for Advanced Technology. There are 15 CATs in the state of New York, one at each one of the major research universities. We are the only university that has two. One in medical biotechnology and one in sensor systems. So if you look at what we have, the breadth of the economic development programs that we have allow us to address comprehensively business needs on Long Island. Whether it's R&D collaboration, technology licensing, advanced technology assistance through SPUR, access to specialized facilities, incubation, business planning and strategy, all of these things are all in one place at Stony Brook University. Now we focus on technology companies because we do have very strong engineering and science programs, as well as some very good programs in the social sciences. Next one, please. Can we go to the next? So cumulatively, what have these programs done? We've added up. So we add up, for example, the number of jobs that were created or we helped save. And this is what the companies tell us. 17,000 jobs over the years. We go to the next one. We've conducted more than 2,500 different projects with companies. 500 companies, different companies that we've worked with. And I think the fact that you have more projects and companies indicates that we've been very successful at providing assistance to those companies because they come back to us. And we also help increase corporate revenue by about $600 million. Remember, this is cumulative. We also work on joint projects with companies, whether it's SBIRs, STTRs, try to help them get funding from the feds, and we can document $100 million in competitive awards made to industry, not to Stony Brook, to industry, as a result of working with us. Next. So, if we look at the programs, and then we look at what has been the impact, and we just took the last 3 years. So the Energy Center, for example, one of the major things that we're very proud of is the fact that we managed to get there were 2 demonstration projects in New York State for smart grid demonstration projects. And Con Edison had one, and LIPA and Stony Brook and SUNY Farmingdale got the other. And Kevin was at the beginning of that, actually, you and Steve Israel, if you remember that phone call. And so it's been very successful, and we're moving on that very well. There are a lot of other activities in the Energy Center, but I don't want to go into them because I would take more than the 5 minutes that was allocated to me. SPUR program. The SPUR program, the past 3 years, we worked with 185 companies. About 1,000 jobs were saved or created. These are all, SPUR only works with small companies. And the way it works is we get state funding, and then we were working with a company. If the project is, let's say, $50,000, the company has to put up about 35,000, and we put up 15,000 from the project here. And it's been, like I said, extremely successful. The Long Island High Tech Incubator and the Calverton Business Incubator both are completely full. We're working on an expansion at Calverton Business Incubator. We combined with all the incubators, we have about 40 tenants. And we also won an incubator award from NYSERDA, which is about $1.5 million, if I recall. Yeah. To try and help small companies working in the energy sector to grow. Small Business Development Center is another program that's been here for more than 20 years. There are, I believe, 20 or 21 SBDC centers around the state. It's done through SUNY Central. So they tend to be at SUNY schools, all of them. Our Small Business Development Center is always ranked 1 or 2 in the state. And they help clients obtain $78 million in financing as a result of them working with the companies to get financing. CWIT is Center of Excellence in Wireless and Information Technology. That was established some years ago. We moved into the facility about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Over the past 3 years, they got about $50 million in awards from the feds, and they've created 900 jobs. These are all things, metrics that we have to report back to the state on how well we have done. Now, the Center of Excellence, as a result of the success of this center, the Korean government has established CWIT Korea. So now we have a research center in Korea, working with companies in Korea, and the intent is to really try and connect companies in New York State with companies in Korea. And now we're talking to with CA, Computer Associates, what used to be Computer Associates. They're looking at establishing a CWIT Israel program. I don't think I've told you that yet, Sam. I may have mentioned it. But the CA is extremely interested in it. Steve Israel is very interested in it. And the President of Israel is very interested in it. So they're all going to be putting some money together, working on projects related to wireless and IT as well as energy. The CATS, the Centers for Advanced Technology, I mentioned we have 2 of them. Oh, before I go there, the Energy Center, Advanced Energy Center, the Governor Cuomo has just in his amendment to the budget has designated it as, or is looking at designated as a Center of Excellence also.
It is.
So yes, so in that case, we will have 2 Centers of Excellence at Stony Brook. Again, there will only be 7 centers around the state, and we're the only ones that have 2 of them.
Does it come with the money?
Not yet. So the CAT, Biotech CAT is one of the oldest. When they started the program, I think it was 1985, if I recall, long before I came. It's actually before I was born. So it's been in existence, and every 10 years, we have to go up for renewal, and it's not automatic. When they renew, they send out an RFP, and anyone can apply for it, and you essentially, your proposal have to be better than anyone else. And so they have been renewed now 3 times. And they have over the years, this past 3 years, they worked with 69 companies, 79.4 billion corporate revenue increase and savings. The SensaCAD was established about 14 years ago. And again, it was a huge political battle at the time. Again, why would Stony Brook get 2 CADs and no one else had? And it has been, again, it's been extremely successful. We have 60 companies they worked with, 41 million in corporate revenue, and 42 million in cost savings. So tremendous impact on various aspects, various sectors of industry on Long Island. And then training, we have a training center, corporate training center, and more recently we started an advanced energy training center, where we are essentially, again, thanks to Kevin, when you were with LIPA, we worked with LIPA on trying to get lead training to be done here. So now we're doing it, and we've already certified, I understand, 1,500 people in lead. Go ahead, certification.
Anne
Okay,
Marie,
so now this
are we
is-
supposed to be able to read that, Anne Marie?
Yes. That's why it's in red. That's why
If I
it's
was
in red.
standing right next to it, I couldn't read it.
No, we just wanted you to see this. This is the SWOT analysis that we made to look at the pros and, the strengths, the weaknesses that exist in the economic development arena. And we did this working with representatives from all the different economic development programs. We did that with Jack Marburger's office, very closely with him in developing this big document that I show here. If you're ever traveling to the Far East, this is good reading, which you see within an hour. So we worked with the VPR office, the Technology Transfer Office. We worked with the College of Business and with the Career Center in doing this. And as a result of this, this group meets every week and discusses economic development programs and projects that they're working on. Okay, so what is the, we talked a little bit about the current programs, and we talked about the fact that the Regional Economic Development Council in its recommendations essentially has its proposal to the state focused on 4 technology sectors. Okay, it was IT, it was biotechnology, defense, and energy. Those were the 4 sectors. And if you look at our programs at Stony Brook, our programs feed those areas. We need to complement them in one or two of the sectors. So we have the incubators, we have a boot camp and dare competition where we try and promote little companies becoming bigger, getting students to essentially write business plans and develop business plans, and we've had some very successful companies that have actually grown as a result of this, started out by undergraduate students. The clusters we talked about, if you look at the R&D park now, that's a major resource that Long Island has. We have CWIT there, which focuses on the information technology sector, cluster. We have the Energy Center, which is focused on the energy cluster. We have the CATS that focus on biotechnology cluster, or the medical biotechnology CAT. The Sensor CAT crosses multiple clusters. The SPUR program is really multidisciplinary. It crosses clusters. It helps all of the technology companies. And then, of course, management and workforce training is for all of them. Okay, let's go to the next one, please. So, this is what we would like to do, is to promote. Right now, part of the problem we have is that a company would go to SPUR and say, okay, we need help, and SPUR will help them in that problem. A company would go to the SensorCat and work with the SensorCat. But all they see is a SensorCat. They don't see the whole suite of programs that we have in economic development. Okay? They should be referred to the Small Business Development Center if they have some issues there, SPUR if they have issues there, medical school. So we need to try and get all of the programs to work jointly with the company. The problem you have is the CAT has to have its metrics for the state to show how successful it's been by measuring how many companies I worked with, etc. And that's their focus. If they don't do that, they don't get the funding for the CAT. And so what we're trying to do is bridge that and get them all to work together so that we can do the best we can for any company, whether it's starting up a company and growing it, or whether it's an existing company that we want to help grow. It's a lot easier to grow an existing company than it is to start up a company. So, we try to do both. And of course, we are going to try and do that even more closely now with external resources, like Brookhaven National Labs, for example. We have a lot of activities jointly with Brookhaven National Labs, but we could do a lot more, and we should. We're looking at working with LIFT, the Long Island Forum for Technology, and their Homeland Security Center. We're looking at working with LISNET and the whole IT companies in the areas. We work with the IDAs and other public agencies. Now, we also need to expand the R&D park, and it's part of the plan for the R&D park. Right now we have the two major buildings that are essentially focusing on energy and focusing on IT and wireless. And the third building we're looking at is in the area of medical biotechnology to support that cluster of companies. And then we're also looking at a mezzanine facility, because as companies leave our incubators, we want to make sure that they have a home to go to very close by. They don't, and this will avoid them leaving Long Island or going to another state. The other thing that we would be working on is developing a portal so that someone can access all of the programs at the same time. We don't have that yet. That's easy to work on, and we will do that very soon.
Michigan is a model.
Michigan is a model of how they have a portal. I guess it can allow you to access all of your programs. So. And so bottom line, you like the graphics? I like that shooting stars kind of thing. That's Anne-Marie, by the way, I didn't do that. So we want a globally competitive, self-sustaining regional economy. And to do that, what we plan to do, the way we would do it, would be focusing on the clusters, and then the resources, whether it's external or internal, that we would put towards that. So wireless and IT, LISNET and CWIT. Biomedical biotechnology, LILC is the Long Island Life Sciences Initiative, which is a group of companies, biotech companies, together with our Center for Biotechnology. Energy, we're looking at collaboration between the Energy Center as well as the New York State Smart Grid Consortium, which was created by the Energy Center. And then Defense and Homeland Security, which is the fourth leg of the fourth sector on Long Island, working in collaboration with LIFT. And with that, I think that's about 15 minutes.
Thanks, Yakov. You know what? I'm going to try to summarize what Yakov did, because as I said at the incubator meeting I went to, I was just so amazed. And but as we're supposed to be the ambassadors to the community, we should be aware of the things that are happening on this campus. And as you can tell by Yakov and Anne-Marie's presentation, we have incubators, we have centers for excellence, we have centers for advanced technology, we have small business development programs, we have programs designed for certain sectors of the economy. There's really nothing that happens in either Nassau or Suffolk County when it comes to economic development that we either haven't or can't play a role in. And so when we're out there, or when we're talking to anybody in the private sector that might need help, chances are there's something here at Stony Brook under the programs that were just described that can assist these, whether small companies or larger companies. And we should take advantage of it. And when we talk about, when you start doing your focus groups and marketing and branding, you know, there's an opportunity here to also be looking at this. So you got the School of Medicine, you got the university, and you got the U.S. World News, all those different markets. But, you know, there are opportunities to also brand and consolidate or coordinate all the various economic development programs, because it's probably, at the end of the day, more happening here than any county IDA or town IDA or even you know, the economic development, you know, councils. You know, there's so much happening here, and has been. It just, I think, needs you know, some branding, and then maybe some better coordination. You know, because there's so many neat things happening. So
I should just add one thing, Kevin. The heart of this The reason why this works is because of the faculty that we have. The reason why we were able to get CWIT, the reason we were able to get the Energy Center is because we have the faculty research that's going on the campus, the basic research that's going on the campus with federal funding. That enables us to essentially do a lot of these things that are here.
Great, thanks, Jaco. And then one other comment. You know, I briefed you on the Regional Economic Development Councils that, you know, Sam and I were on, and that we won a lot of money. But like in every situation, there are a lot of people behind the scenes who don't get a lot of credit and who do a lot of the work. And Anne Marie Scheit, back there, she helped out tremendously with that. So Anne Marie, thanks for all your efforts with that.
I have
Questions?
Question, Yaakov. You know I'm a big fan of yours. You know it. But I always like, you know, these are really so multidimensional, and I would like you to tell us one, like a Sprite story of one of the businesses that came in with state money and their own $35,000 to spur them on to a success.
That's good. Spur them on. Under the program. Yes, I can give you one example that comes to mind immediately. Is there was a company that, unfortunately, this is about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. The company is no longer on Long Island. They had 600 people working in manufacturing, and they were looking at. They were supplying Ford Motor Company. I'm not supposed to say that. No, a big automotive company with the steering wheel, leather that goes around the steering wheel.
Oh, yeah.
And one or two of the thousands that they had received, the glue was coming off. And so they said, stop the production line, and we will stop getting any of these from you unless you fix this problem, and you fix it in the next week or two. So they shut down the line. 600 people had to go on leave. They called up and said, we don't know what to do. So we had our material science people look at the glue. We went in first and looked at their manufacturing process. Nothing was wrong with it. We went in, looked at under the electron microscopes for the glue. Nothing wrong. Then we took the glue over to the light source at Brookhaven National Labs and looked, and it turned out that there were some defects in that glue. So we told the company. They said, well, you know, can you be on the call with us as we call Exxon? Because I called Exxon. Exxon said, no, it's not. So I'm not supposed to say that. But Exxon, big oil company, said, no.
Working with a big automobile company.
And so we got on the
start
phone
of
with
that
them.
meeting, you would have known that we'd be webcasted. I warned everybody in the beginning.
Gary will take care of it for me. It's 15 years ago, 12 years ago. So anyway, so we got on the call, and the scientists from the company, the other company, the big company, said, "There's nothing wrong with the glue. We haven't changed anything. We looked under our electron microscopes. There was nothing wrong." And our professor was on the line, and he said, "Yes, but we looked under the light source and sent him the pictures." They said, "Oh, we'll get back to you." Within a day, they fixed the problem. It turned out that they had changed the process of making the glue. 600 people were back at work within a week.
Big.
That really is it.
Yeah.
When we started the Spur program, they wanted to run it out of Albany, and we said we don't want the program because we want to be able to respond to a company's needs within 24 hours. If we have to go to Albany, it's going to take a year before we get approvals. And so they agreed to do that. That's why it's been an extremely successful program.
Thank you for this.
Thank you for simplifying a very complex issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think his examples are always like that. I'm still working on, you know, the eyeglasses and the teeth.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ken?
Jakob, could you illustrate for us, so you've done a very, very nice job illustrating how we impact economic development on Long Island, the state of New York. A couple of examples were mentioned on how we provide some opportunities for our students to learn about real world applications. How about the other direction? How could you illustrate for us how having all of these incubators and centers, et cetera, enriches Stony Brook University?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'm glad you asked that question. a major part, what we have found is our federal funding has started shooting up as a result of these programs. Because any time a proposal is submitted to NSF or DOD or DOE, we have 4 or 5 companies going in with us saying this is great work, we've worked with the university, we've worked with these faculty members, and if something comes out, we would be very interested in commercializing it. That has helped us grow. If I look at the College of Engineering, we do about 30 million a year in expenditures, research expenditures. Of those, probably about 25 are federal. I would say federal is about 20 million. When we started a whole bunch of these programs, we were only doing $4 million a year in expenditures. Okay? And we were doing about $1 million in industry type projects. Now we're at about 4 or 5 million in industry. But the federal dollars have really shot up, and I think a large part of that is the fact that in fact, I have never had a project that required a faculty member to work on it, that the faculty member said, no, I don't want to work on it because it's too applied. Or it's so it really has helped our faculty grow, big time.
All right. Yakov, thank you. And Marie, thank you. Nothing else on the agenda unless somebody else has any new business to raise? Old business, new business, comments? Our next meeting is going to be in May. Which date? I don't know. Susan was checking, unless somebody else knows. Anybody know? It'll be in May. Susan will send out an email. I think the date's set. Yeah. Anybody know for sure?
No.
She's checking. But I think we have a date set. It's, probably the second, first or second Tuesday in May. So that's when we'll meet. Will a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
May 7th? May 7th. May 7th.
May 7th, I just got there.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, Kevin, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
Thank you.